Okay, guys, so I saw this video about why a new player struggled to stick with Guild Wars 2. We're about to stream it again on Tuesday, so I thought that I would watch this because I have a lot of thoughts sort of in this vein as well, so let's check this out.
So Guild Wars 2 is a fantastic game and has a lot of great features and content for all sorts of players.
What am I missing? No, I see what I'm missing. I knew there was something, guys. I was like, there's something wrong here. Okay, let's do it.
Without a doubt, one of the best games that I have ever played, but not everyone has that same experience. Trying out Guild Wars 2 as a new player can be taxing. The game is a sandbox. You can do literally anything you want, but they really don't offer any clear directions of where to go aside from your story. You could do PvP, you could collect legendaries, push endgame PvE, or become a world versus world god, or do none of that. It is quite an interesting problem. After speaking
Yeah, so this gets exactly to what I think about Guild Wars 2, one of the things that I find really interesting. So over the years of me playing all these different MMOs, it's been a decade journey of getting better and better at MMOs, and in general, realistically, it's been a 25-year journey of me learning about MMOs and understanding what they are and playing all these different games. Guild Wars 2 feels specifically like an MMO that has so much going on in it that if you were at a specific point in your journey into MMOs, if you had played a little bit of tab target stuff, but you had never really gotten good, and then you tried to come to Guild Wars 2, this could be a game that could really overwhelm you and make you feel like you're not ready for it, or it doesn't have anything for you, or you could be confused about what's under the hood, or all those kinds of things. But I think that on either ends of that spectrum, right? So where I'm at currently in my time playing MMOs, this game is absolutely perfect for me right now because I'm currently ready to start looking into more complex and more customizable versions of the MMO genre. And people on the other end of the spectrum, I think, who don't even really know what an MMO is, this is their first one perhaps, or you know, something in that vein, I think that they're, you know, look at this game and they don't even see it as an MMO. It just feels like this big open world romp where they're going and running around and doing little things. I mean, you could theoretically, I guess, I don't really know specifically if this would be possible, but I think so. You could run through this game and you could never touch a dungeon, or you could never touch a world boss and have no idea what those things are or that they even exist in this game. If you were just running around doing all the hearts and finding all the vistas and doing jump puzzles and those things. So I think that it sort of falls into that sort of interesting range. And I think that there's sort of a place in the middle where this game is either difficult for you to see all the possibilities, or it's too complicated for you and it would sort of put you off from
to a number of sources, I believe I've compiled the main reasons that new players leave Guild Wars 2 and don't give it a second thought. Probably the first problem new players have dealing with Guild Wars 2 is, of course, getting over the stigma that it is a dead MMO, and I put that into air quotes because Guild Wars 2 has a thriving community and plenty of loyal and casual players. But it has, for a while now, only ever been judged by the amount of active players that are in the game, rough estimates, and that number deters new players from committing. And to be fair, their hesitation is in their own best interest. I mean, how many people truly want to put tons and tons of hours into an MMO, a massively multiplayer online game, and there only be a few hundred players playing? Now,
I mean, that's super untrue that there aren't that many people playing. I have done tons and tons of content within the first 40 hours of the game, all in the base game, all in the core game, and there is tons of people doing that content. Every world boss that you go to is completely full with enough people to clear the world boss. Every event that you see going around has tons of people at it. You see lots of people running around doing the same quest. You bump into people while ever you're exploring the worlds. It's very common to see people around, and you can go to any of the zones, and there's people there. There's tons of people doing things, and that's just in the core game. That's not even talking about the part of the fan base that is really large into it and really far on their journey and are playing the expansions.
That number, of course, is a severe undercut, as there are tons and tons of daily logins to work on projects, people farming, and game goals, all leveling. Instead I mean, you name it, players are playing the game. There is a consistent amount of player in most zones, all working on some type of achievement or goal. A dead game mentality has always caused hesitation to get into video games, and that of course is because human beings are social creatures. We want to be around other people, players, even if we're not necessarily interacting with them. I can faithfully say that Guild Wars 2 is very much an active game and has people there. Honestly, not as much as, say, maybe Final Fantasy or perhaps even World of Warcraft, but I heard that's seen some tough times as well. However, there are consistent and dedicated players.
Yeah, there's been some hard times on those games as well, you know? I mean, all MMOs go through these sort of ebbs and flows, and especially in between content patches and in between new expansions, you're going to have these drop-offs in the relevant content. If even in Dragonflight, realistically, between some of the seasons, there's some real dead zones. If you were trying to get caught up in Dragonflight prior to the pre-stuff for The War Within coming out, right in that little nook there, it was difficult to come back and get active groups that were doing everything, especially as you got into the higher, Mythic Plus and all that kind of stuff.
But this only
unless you were in a
covers
guild of
half
people who were doing it
the
regularly and
dead
all that.
game argument. The second half of that is lack of content, and it of course is a joke in the MMO community,
Dude,
as there
so
is
much.
active development on the game from ArenaNet, but there is some truth
so
in
much
it.
content in
ArenaNet
this
has
game.
taken well over a year to release brand new content after their End of Dragons release, and the first thing that was out was a remake of their very first Living World Season 1, which of course is the DLC content in between expansions. Now, while it is great content, it may not appeal to the MMO enthusiasts, as MMORPGs in general are heavy time commitments. If you bust butt to get through all the great things about the game and its expansions, only to find that the next piece of content won't be out for another year.
So this is the odd thing about Guild Wars 2 as well, that the game is the part of the game that you want to play. Rushing through the game, and if you have that mentality, if you think about Guild Wars 2, it will sort of put you off in that way. That if you're trying to get through it really quickly, if you're saying, okay, I'm going to move through this and I'm going to find myself on the other side of it and all those kinds of things, there isn't really an end game to rush to. Sorry for my camera right there. There isn't really an end game to rush to. The game is the game. The thing that you're doing at the beginning is the thing that you're doing at the end. World completion, figuring out your character, doing the bosses, doing the raids and all that kind of stuff. This is all rolled into one thing. Farming legendaries. It is a game that doesn't change completely as you get to the end. It only adds on to what you're doing as you get to the end. So I think that you could theoretically chew through all of the content really, really quickly and feel like you don't have anything to do, but you would have missed so much stuff along the way that is the stuff that people stick around for, if I'm reading that right.
And even that, it's just a single map that can be finished in about an hour.
Now what?
While this is in fact active content being developed on the game, it doesn't provide a strong enough case to convince new players to commit their time and energy. My counter to this thought is the fact that most of the content in Guild Wars 2 is essentially evergreen.
Yeah.
Literally, there is a reason to do all content in every zone or expansion because all the content in those zones has some role in endgame. There are mountains and mountains of relevant content for players to dig into, and even now, ArenaNet recently announced that brand new content is rolling out to players over the next year, and that they're focusing on smaller, shorter, bite-sized expansions that come out more frequently. So just trust the process. Another reason that new players may or may
not only trust the process, but realize that as a new player that you are a decade behind this game at this point, plus 2 more years on the end of that, and that you have a lot of things to get through. I always think it's really funny watching new MMO players or new players to a specific MMO come in and try to get as good as people who have been there for the whole time in 6 months or whatever. There is not a single chance that you as a person who has never played Guild Wars 2 is going to be as good as the best person who has been there from the beginning and has been playing the whole time and has 45,000 hours in this game. You're just not going to do it. So you really need to enjoy your own journey and sort of go on your own process with the game. And I forget Guild Wars 2 for 5 seconds. Any MMO that you play. Don't play RuneScape and jump in and try to be settled tomorrow. Don't play World of Warcraft and jump in and try to be Athene tomorrow. Just I know Athene's not it, but just play the game. Just play the game. Isn't that a novel concept nowadays? Isn't the idea that you can just play a video game such a novel concept that you don't have to min-max your time in the video game, that maybe you have 60 years of your life still, and that you will have all this time to sink into a video game over that course of time, and you don't need to experience everything this game has to have within the weekend, that you can enjoy your weekend playing it and only make a little bit of progress, and then you can go to the next thing and come back in a week or two. Isn't that novel nowadays?
Not stick around is the common problem with many older MMOs, and that is the grind to level 80 or max level. And really what that highlights is the game's slower start. Now, this day and age, there are tons of MMORPGs that have updated graphics engines, features, flashy combat, streamlined systems, and a new player who's trying Guild Wars 2 after all of those, for lack of better words, going to be a bit shocked that a 10-year-old game plays and looks, well, like a game from the early 2010s.
Would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Now, this is, of course, because the core game in which you have to grind to max level is still relatively the same as it was at release. The graphics, the cutscenes, I mean, they show their age. Now, the more recent content, of course, is done better with interesting features, new elite specialized.
Forget the most recent content for a second. Let's talk about something real. You know what MMOs are heralded as being the best MMOs of all time? World of Warcraft Classic, Final Fantasy XI, EverQuest, the old MMOs that used to play and look like this, and you as an MMO player knows that. You know that you don't like retail WoW if you're coming here and you're looking at Guild Wars 2. You know that Final Fantasy XIV, you've already done all the content in it. You know all of these things. I don't think this is what gets new players away from Guild Wars 2. Genuinely. I mean, I think that these are things that make people look at it and go, I don't know if I'm going to play it or not. And that's fair. But as far as why new players struggle to stick with Guild Wars 2, I really think that a lot of it is because it's so complicated. It gives me a headache learning about this game, but, I obviously love it. I continue to play it. I continue to look into it. But there are so many little things going on. The grind is intense. If you are not used to RuneScape, I could see those things putting you off. If you're somebody who wants quick results out of your character, if you think that you've come from World of Warcraft raids and you're going to be able to jump right into the raids in this game, it's just a whole different kind of experience. It's a whole different game. It's an MMO, sure, in the same way that Call of Duty and Halo are in the same genre. They're different games.
And all that. If a new player watches these videos on more recent content and their releases, they are going to feel like they got the old bait and switch because they were drawn in with Picasso and then given a hand-painted drawing from me in first grade.
What the hell is even that?
With all that in mind, it is a common problem amongst MMOs. I bring to light Final Fantasy XIV because of its slow start, and to be able to get to the best parts of endgame, it takes quite a bit of time to get there, and spending that time in a slow, moving, outdated core game is, well, not that exciting to many players. And to even take that further, a part of that development that ArenaNet is working on, the core game is getting a facelift. This being one of the goals that Guild Wars 2 is now actively working on to improve, so hang around. It's getting improved. What MMORPG do you think is most closely related to Guild Wars 2? Tell me in the comments section down below. So something that quite a few new players have brought to my attention, as from other places, is that the game isn't truly free to play. While yes, the core game to max level is free. To get the more recent content and expansions, you are looking to fork over anywhere between $30 to $100 US. That is a hike to buy a game that was potentially guised as a free to play. What makes this a bit worse and more against the new player is that the trial version is throttled by limiting such features as map chat, interactions with other players, character slots, and even bag slots. This honestly puts new players at a massive disadvantage when compared to paid accounts, as it feels like you're being held hostage.
Happy Star Wars Day, everyone.
Now, to be fair,
bro, have you guys seen that TikTok? This is my girlfriend. Let her go. Dude, that one was insane.
ArenaNet markets this as a free.
TikTok has this really cool way of sometimes coming out with the greatest content that you've ever seen in your entire life, but you only have to wade through 99.9% of garbage in order to get there. So you have to swipe 1,000 times to be able to see the one piece of content that is amazing. But sometimes the entire community comes together in a way to do something that is simply riveting, unlike anything else, because of the way that you can stitch things together and edit things together, and it has all these tools built into it, and it just has free use of basically everyone else's content. It comes out with such good stuff.
Whereas
that
I believe
piece is boring on its own, but then what they did with it,
were to be honest, unless it should be labeled as a trial account.
Happy Star
Many new
Wars Day,
players
everyone.
coming in with the notion to the free-to-play account are going to be left, well, a bit off-put. Now, my counter thought for this is that new players should not view Guild Wars 2 as a free-to-play game. View it as a trial account, which what any business would do to entice players to dive deeper into the game. And I'm not saying it is particularly right, but I'm simply saying what the account is. And for that matter, once you purchase the game, you can play literally everything that's available out there. It is more a buy once, play forever game with a trial account service. Also, make sure to like and subscribe for...
There is no sub fee. And if you are going to play World of Warcraft and you're going to buy a year's worth of sub, it is going to be more expensive than buy, years with a sub, the newest expansion. It's going to be more expensive than playing Guild Wars 2 for sure. I've already bought the first 3 expansions. I am excited to play through all of them. I thought it was totally worth it, and I had already gotten my time and my money's worth out of the free to play. So I just I went ahead and did it. That being said, if you don't want to buy the stuff right away and you just want to play it, you have probably 100+ hours of content for you to dive into and see if you actually like this game.
Great content that is somewhat related to coffee. I mean, damn, I don't even hold up my coffee mug in my videos anymore. Now, this is arguably the biggest reason that new players struggle with Guild Wars 2 and have no interest in coming back into the game. And that, of course, is the complexity of this game. Now, in my opinion, this has 3 subcomponents. The first issue is lack of directions for new players. In more up-to-date MMORPGs, players are given literally an arrow to lead them to their objective. Guild Wars 2 has an opening mission and then basically says good luck. Most players diving into a game expect there to be more of a tutorial. And of course, to give ArenaNet credit, they do offer some level tips that briefly pop up about its features, but that's about it. One text box and then figure it out on your own.
Every system is so nuanced. Every system is built on other systems. Every time I ask a question in one of these videos about this game right here, and you guys comment down below the answer to my question, there's words I don't know what they mean in there. You know how long it would take you to answer my question? It can't be done. It can't be done.
It's severely off-putting for this style of presentation. Although this does give content creators some work, wink, the lack of overall guidance of where to go and what to do is something that other popular MMOs have made mainstay in their new player experience, but Guild Wars 2 has missed that boat. My rebuttal to this is that this is by design, to allow players freedom and character growth to be on that player.
There it is. That's the truth. You want a game that allows you to do whatever you want, it has to be complicated. There is no way for you to reach through the computer and hold the weapons yourself and do whatever move you want to do and channel your own energies into a spell. They have to build it in an engine that you have to press buttons to use the things. And in order to give you all of the freedom that this game gives you, it has to give you that complexity. So whenever I'm talking about the complexity of this game and I sound like I'm upset about it, I'm only upset because I don't understand it yet. When I get there, I'm going to be totally fine with it.
Not necessarily the game. Speaking of those features, they are overwhelming. Like the amount of pop-ups, the boons, the conditions, and even the crowd control abilities are just thrown at players as they are happening. Totally. However, when you go to look at them, you have to navigate a slightly confusing and not intuitive character panel. But once you were here, you see nothing that really explains what those boons and conditions do. You can argue the tooltip. I counter with the thought that new players may not know what power damage is and what a concentration buff is. Or maybe they don't even really care. Speaking of the UI, it is at times annoying to figure out, and even after playing as long as I have, I still have difficulty getting where I need to go. It requires time and effort to look through everything and figure it out, which, of course, again, can be off-putting to new players. Lastly, I would like to bring up the currencies, the loot boxes, the loot bags.
Dude, the inventory management in Guild Wars 2 is bad. That's straight up. That's straight up something that that we need to discuss. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I don't see anything. This is what I was saying earlier. This is when I first got into this video, this is what I was talking about, right? Is that for someone like me, who's at the place that I want to be at, this game is perfect right now. This game is perfect for me because I have all this interest in playing something that gives me this huge amount of freedom that I can run around this world with and find my own way, find my own class that I want to play, build my own build, do my own things, get my own weapons, figure out what goals I want to have, do those goals, and not be tied to, well, now it's time to do Mythic Plus rating, dude. You got the level cap. Now you got to do Mythic Plus rating, dude. That's what we do at level cap. That's really fun for me. For somebody who's new to MMOs in general, and you wouldn't even know what a raid was if it bit you in the face. You wouldn't even ever think to ask about what raids are. This game's great for you. For the people in the middle who are coming from World of Warcraft and they've been deterred from it because other people are saying things like, well, Blizzard's going in a bad direction. And they don't even know what that direction is, but they just follow whatever and sort of jump off the thing. This game is going to be something for you, and maybe it'll turn you into a Guild Wars 2 gamer, but maybe you'll miss everything that happens in it. And if you fall in that middle ground, what I would tell you is to look beneath the surface and try to figure out what it is that you actually want out of a video game, because this game probably has it. And I think that's something really interesting worth noting. I still play World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft today. I'm working my way through the War Within. It's a good game. I like it. Guild Wars 2 is something totally different. And I'm really glad to be here with it, you know?
Seriously, there are so many currencies, and a lot of them are tied to only a unique map that it really gets obnoxious. And many new players will collect items and have no idea what is valuable and what is trash, let alone not knowing what they should store or salvage. It can be incredibly taxing for a new player to getting involved into the game, only to be bombarded by the amount of loot and drops that happen. Perhaps it's a ploy, because if they are bombarded with loot, wouldn't the convenience of more bag slots be an excellent solution? Oh wait, that costs real money. That's probably why I'll never be invited to be ArenaNet partner. While this is a broad reason, there is an explanation. Guild Wars 2 is an older MMO, and with a lot of the mainstay features that were in place at release. This means the game itself has complexity that players had a while to work through. What that creates, however, is a problem for newer players who have certain expectations of the game, and those expectations are not met. A new player is going to have 10 years worth of content to catch up on to be able to understand what is going on. And that could definitely cause some problems. Yeah. Having said all that, Guild Wars 2 is...
Here's what I ask of people. If you look at this game and it looks good to you, this is the way that I decide what games I want to play, right? If you look at this game and it looks good to you and you're interested in it, be aware that when you get into any new video game, it's going to take you a long time to imprint with that video game. You didn't immediately click into Fortnite and know how to play Fortnite and enjoy it with your friends for 1,000 hours. You went through 100 hours of it first, and you guys had to learn how to do it together, and you made your way through that game, and then you got good at it, and now you have all these fond memories of that game. Realize that going into this game, that you're going to have that same process. There are a lot of things to learn. Maybe you've never played an MMO before. Maybe you've played a lot of MMOs before, but you've never played Guild Wars 2 before, and that you have to give it a chance to wow you. And before you go and type out, a comment that is, negative about Guild Wars 2 or whatever, just give it that chance. Because I am a pretty big stickler for video games that I play, and it's solid. Genuinely. Beyond solid. It is intriguing in a way that I can't describe. There is a class in this game where you get on top of rooftops and shoot people with a sniper rifle. What do you think that's like in an MMO, dude?
Is still a fantastic game, and in my opinion, one of the very best when it comes to the casual MMOs. We have no gear treadmills. Most of the game is doable with only a moderate amount of effort and time commitment. When you unlock features for your account, they are available to everyone on that account, making your achievements that much more worthwhile. And on top of that, the community is a great help. Except sometimes in PvP. You can pick this game up, play it when you want, and when you are burnt out, you can leave it and don't need to come back to it unless you want to. Which, as we get older and have more responsibilities, that becomes infinitesimally more valuable. This game is one of my overall favorite titles, and one that I will stress to the great Giga Chads and Giga Chad enjoyers of the MMO market. Stick with it. I promise you, you will be surprised at how much you enjoy this game. If you want to see why Guild Wars 2 is the best casual MMO out there, click this video here. Stay caffeinated, folks.
Casual. I hate when they use that term for this game because I don't think it actually fits. I think that casual is a term that refers to people who only put a couple of hours into a game a week. They don't actually have a whole lot of devoted skills to video gaming, all those kinds of things. I think that most people who play these kinds of games are beyond casual, but fair enough. Anyways, give Caffeinated Dad Gaming a subscription and click the like button for him as well. His videos are always really good. That's it for tonight, guys. Be safe out there, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.